It's the mom life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Living in the Moment with B.
And Steph. Happy Monday, friends.
Yay!
We missed you guys last week, and we were actually excited to talk about this, so we're bringing it up today. We are going to be talking baby led weaning versus traditional weaning when feeding your kids and transitioning them to solids. So, for anyone that might not know, baby led weaning it starts as early as 6 months,
Or
and
four.
it is okay, yeah, or four. I think most of the guidelines I've read are six, but I have heard that doctors do say you can start solids as early as four. Baby led weaning, though, specifically is basically table food, like you're kind of skipping over the puree phase and you're giving them table food. So, hand size or finger size pieces of whatever you're eating, and you just kind of modify it for the baby. So that is pieces of steak that they can kind of gnaw on and suck out the juices. That is egg strips, like omelet strips that you make, vegetables, cooked vegetables that they can grab and hold on to. Pretty much, I mean, the guideline for the baby led weaning, there's some choking hazards that they advise against, but that stuff like popcorn, marshmallows, like nuts, for the most part, any food is a go. So that is one new avenue of eating that parents are taking, and that's kind of like a new way of introducing solids. Well, I say new, but I'll come back to that. So, a new quote unquote new way of introducing solids. And then there is the traditional weaning approach, which is starting them off with purees, and then slowly, introducing more and more texture as they get older. So those are the two things we're referencing in this episode: baby led weaning and then traditional weaning.
Yeah, and I look at it for anyone that doesn't consider it traditional, it's baby led weaning versus pureed foods. And so,
Or sure, yeah.
because I was like, what's traditional? Because my doctor
Well,
only ever
that's what
said to
it's
me,
called. It's like a traditional approach to food. But that's why I say that I'd come back to that solid thing, because it is like baby led weaning as a label, I think, is new. But as a way of eating, when we talked to our doctor about it, he's like, honestly, just because we live in this little part of the world that usually does, purees to solids, and that's what's been recommended by doctors for a long time, doesn't mean that people all over the world in all of, are also doing purees. And, so it's like, however you choose to introduce solids to your kids is likely something that someone is doing somewhere else in the world. Like, it doesn't make it wrong or right.
right, right. And as far as 4 months, it was for purees, is what my doctor gave me a green at 4 months, not for actual food. He said, if you're comfortable, that's completely up to you. But I'm going to give you the okay at 4 months to start giving the baby purees. But a lot of that has to do with their muscle, and we've talked about this before. As far as their neck muscle, they should be able to hold their head up high so that they're not choking. They're not slanted. So they're able to swallow and it goes down. And so that's a big one before you even introduce any foods, is make sure that your baby can hold their head up high. That's the first indication that they are ready. But as far as what did you do? Like, how did you start? Because I know you start, or when did you start? Because I did start at 4 months for the puree with JJ, and I would
Yeah.
make my own purees. I would basically boil veggies or fruits, and then I would just puree them with water. I didn't add anything else, and JJ loved them. I didn't really buy mine. I know purees are also like an American thing, like you said, because it's just easier, right? It's more convenient. You can go to the store, you have a million options, versus, I guess, baby led weaning, they can eat off your plate essentially. But you just have
Yeah.
to like stop and cut everything. And I don't know, I did. I still gave my baby like food when he was 6 months, is when we started the actual solid food. But I still made sure like he can bite through it, or I made things squishy, or like blueberries, I
There's
would
a
squish
lot of
them.
guidelines. Yeah. When it's the baby led weaning approach, a lot of what I read is like, what you give them needs to be able to be squished easily between two fingers, because that's about the strength of their gums. Needs to be, if it's going to be like strips, it needs to be about the size of two finger lengths so that they're not, able to stuff the whole thing in their mouth. There's a lot of guidelines for it that make it as safe as possible. I think there's probably a choking hazard with anything we eat at any time. Um, but yeah, a lot that goes into it. We waited until 6 months on the dot to start the food, or purees, and we were strictly purees. Partly because I was scared. I was scared to give Maddie real food, but also because even as we started getting, months and months past 6 months, she had no interest in food with really any sort of texture. And I'm the opposite. I was not making her fresh purees. Once in a while I would make something, but for the most part she was eating a lot of pouches and a lot of like the pre-made vegetables, whatever. But she yeah, when I would make her something like mashed potatoes or just something with a little more texture, she showed no interest. And so I was thinking to myself, we did baby led weaning, but we did her, she just led me. Like we didn't do anyway. It made sense in my head. Like we, it ended up being her leading me into what she wanted to eat. And so no, she didn't have basically any texture until maybe 2 weeks before her first birthday, when she finally was like, okay, I'll try these beans, I'll try this rice, like, really weaned into it. And then no, by just now she's what, 15 months, and we had Chipotle for lunch. So like
Hmm.
she just did it on her own. She told me when she was ready, and she's done that throughout this entire process. So I remember being very worried actually when she would not eat everything initially, and I was trying to just give her like even sweet potato, just anything different, and she wasn't wanting it. She'd spit it out, she'd gag, eggs, nothing. She didn't want any of it, and I was getting worried. And then even by her 1 year appointment, I told the doctor, she's mostly still on formula. Like she's, like I said, 2 weeks before she was trying stuff a little bit, but it was nowhere, solid food was not making up her diet. And he's like, it's fine. Like, some kids just take a little longer. We would expect by her 15-month appointment that she, be mostly eating food. And then, yeah, sure enough, she's not drinking any formula or milk anymore or anything. So, she did it on her own in her own time.
Yeah, and just to circle back, so when Steph says texture, she means like different and multiple texture, but pureed food is their initial like first texture because it's different from milk. Um, so like they'll spit a lot out until you find what they like. But my husband and I are big on protein. And so I would even like puree chicken and steaks and meat. And sometimes I would make like meat popsicles. I know that sounds gross, but it didn't have any taste other than it was healthy and
Meat,
yeah,
yeah.
and
It's not gross.
yeah, it grossed me out, but he loved it. He would
Yeah.
like he couldn't walk, but he would sit there and just suck on it. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking of purees, it's good because they already have the sucking motion, whether you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, they have that motion. And so it's easier for them. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get stuck there. Like Steph said, you got to definitely try because the goal, even for us, was at 15 months, he should be eating majority solid foods versus drinking his calories or his intake. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the 15-month mark is real. But honestly, I feel like I did purees and then food. And then we went back to purees because he didn't want food for a while. He would like throw it on the floor like actual steak. Or he liked broccoli. I think that helped with his gums, but there was a lot that he didn't like. And so we went back to purees only to go back to solid foods. And so really guys, for me anyways, it was a mixture. So
Yeah.
I mean, do what you can, do what the baby will take, what they enjoy. You also, what I did find enjoyable about starting foods is you get to see their palate. And so you're like, are you more like mom? Are you more like dad? My
Mm-hmm.
kid is more like grandma. I'm like, what? He likes everything grandma likes. And so I don't know what I would do with the second. I don't know. I think I would do the same. I think I would start purees at 4 months if we got the okay from the doctor. Again, 4 months you need the okay from the doctor. It's usually 6 months, like Steph said, that everything else says is fine. Um, but I think I would mix it up still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would do the exact same thing. Just let the let the baby decide. I still wouldn't do like the full pieces of food. I didn't like that approach for us. And who knows, maybe a next baby would be different. Um but that's a lot of what the baby-led weaning approach is. It's like full pieces of food, and I wasn't a fan of that. And a lot of the pages that I was following, was just giving these 6-month babies, this full plate of stuff, and I'm like, I can't even try that. So yeah, I kind of tried to puree other things. I think eggs at one point. She was like, oh, this is gross. So I think part of what Maddie liked was just sweet. She just had a sweet palate until she was ready to start eating other things. Because like I said, I tried to even introduce like the pouches of like meat and, make our own and, whatever, like here and there. Again, I wasn't making all of her meals or anything. But I did notice that she just liked sweet. And then finally, as she got a little older, she was ready to try new stuff.
Well, and even like the puree, because I did that, I want to say for 4 months. So a little after 6 months is when we started solids. But it was such a big deal because I'm not saying I'm a health nut, but I started to open my eyes a little more, just as most of everyone has in the world, because now you see a bunch of like chemicals and
Yeah.
metal in food. And so that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of baby food that has metals and it's tested for metals. And I'm not going to name brands because I don't know where they are now or if they have made changes. But that is what led me down the rabbit hole to Once Upon a Time with Jennifer Gardner. That brand is amazing. They have no metals. But yeah, that was my go-to purees. I know for anyone that's looking for convenience, we're not getting paid to do any of this ad, but I will say if you are worried about what's in purees, I made mine most of the time, but on the go, Once Upon a Time was literally a lifesaver. And now it's in Walmart. You said that, right?
Yeah.
I could only find them
Yeah,
in
it's
Target
at
and Whole
Walmart.
Foods before, and now it's in Walmart. But that is a good brand, guys, if you guys are on the go. And I think even like
Yeah.
our toddler friend, he's like 3 or 4, he still has those to go. Like they're just his little
Yeah, they
pouches.
make them for kids too. Yeah. Though, just to not let anyone, feel a certain way, I still used that brand that shall not be named
Other
because we're not
brands.
gonna
Yeah, there's
we're
a
not gonna
lot.
shout them out anyway. Yeah, but no free brand deals either way, except Once Upon a Farm, she gets a free shout out. But no, I looked into it too. It was just a specific kind. Supposedly, who knows, right? Again, just look into whatever you're comfortable with. So we still did do that brand, and Maddie's fine. So,
Yeah,
just do what you think is best.
yeah,
And
in any direction, whether it's you want to start with
yeah,
solids or purees or you're buying it or you're making it. I mean, you learn what your baby likes and then life continues, right? And
yeah.
so if you are debating on which route to take, I will say go with your gut.
And let the baby decide. If you try one thing and it doesn't work, then try the other thing. Like it's fine. And they'll one thing I have noticed is they'll tell you or show you, or you're their mom, you'll pick up on what they want, what they don't want, what they like, what they need, all of the above. So
Right? It's just like, and you might have like your initial thoughts and then you actually start it and it might change, and that's okay. That's just like breastfeeding and formula feeding, right? You go into it thinking one thing and then life happens, your baby is a certain they have their own wants and needs and circumstances, and it'll all work out. Like
yeah.
it's you're going from breastfeeding and pumping or bottle feeding to then switching to that. And so don't beat yourself up over it. Your babies are fine. They're fed.
And if there is an issue, the doctors address it. Like there is feeding therapy that some kids have to do, which has made me feel better throughout the entire, first year too. Is like they have so many doctor's appointments. They're constantly getting checked. You're constantly checking their milestones. Like if you find a doctor that you feel comfortable with and you trust, then that's very helpful as well to just get through and trust that the baby is moving as they're supposed to. And if they're not, then there's ways to address that. So either way, it's
Yeah.
all good.
And if you guys have any questions, ask us. I mean, my baby's
Yeah.
already 2. He's going to be 3 this year. So we're on to a different era. But like I said, I still want another. And so my mind has not left all of this stuff. I like gather all the information and I'm ready for number
Yeah.
2. By gathering, I just mean in the back of my head. I don't have any notes We do what we can.
Dee's brain is a plethora of information.
Plethora. But sometimes you open that book and it's like moths. There's nothing there. It's just mama brain kicks in. But I did want to catch Stephanie while I have her because it's so hard. We've been working. I am training in a new department. I keep moving up.
Again,
Oh
it's
my
very busy,
gosh.
guys.
Very busy on top of just life and holidays. But I did want to get you, Steph. It reminded me quickly, we talked about breastfeeding. But are you keeping up with like that whole Justin and Blake? This is our little snippet of gossip, celebrity
Oh,
gossip.
geez. Yes. And you know what, guys? B and I have talked about this since the beginning. We're into celeb gossip, okay? And
As
so
most
initially
millennials
we're
are.
like, yeah, exactly. We're like, okay, where do we stand on this Blake Lively and Justin
Because we
Baldoni
read
who
the
are
book.
in It Ends With
We
Us?
read the
Yes, we
book
read the
together.
book.
We want to go see the
Yes.
movie. And
Well, I didn't go with you guys, but
she
yes, we
ditched
did
us.
see the movie.
It was our mom group,
And
and last minute she's like, I can't make it. I have a date. We're like,
I'm going with the hubs. Yeah, he went and
Yes.
watched it with me. And you know what's funny is now he's been like, "Oh my gosh, did you see this and this?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." But
Oh.
anyway, so yeah, they've had a drama as we've all seen play out. Initially, they weren't doing their press together. It was very obvious that something had happened, right, for this movie. And so it had come out that which was the initial one? Justin was complaining. Blake had said like
She
Justin
submitted a
was
complaint.
okay. Initially, that was how it initially came about.
Well, no.
Didn't she do?
I
She
think
do it
people,
first.
yeah, people started noticing, like you said, they weren't promoting the movie together and they were promoting it very differently. Like their styles were so different. And then I think Justin made a comment that I saw. Again, I'm not saying there's obviously a lot going on, but I had seen like, oh, Blake should direct the next movie, you know? And people are like, oh, that was a little catty, or like his tone. And
Yeah.
then what else do we do as a society but dive into that because we need distractions? That's exactly what
Right. And then all of the like interviews started resurfacing of Blake Lively. Oh, that's what it was because Justin Baldoni was marketing it like as to be aware of domestic violence, and she was kind of steering away from that. And so people looked into that, and then yeah, all of this old stuff on her started resurfacing, and he was kind of looking very saintly in the beginning
until her complaint. And then
Right.
her complaint, brought up a lot of things like the breastfeeding, like, she felt sexually assaulted or
that he
violated.
came into her trailer while she was breastfeeding, that he had some other person come into her trailer, that it was very invasive, and like she didn't want anyone in there and they just kind of went in. And so yeah, there was a lot that came out in her complaint against him, that he made it a very hostile work environment for her, that he was just inappropriate to her in multiple different ways. And so that came out, and then people kind of all like rallied around her a little bit, like, okay, that's not cool. Like, so yeah, then we get to that point.
And then he files suit, and this is where we are now, because he's like, no, girl, I have receipts. And he brings,
right.
I breastfed my baby to 10 months, I would say. And I didn't have to do it at a job. I did it at home, but primarily everything was out. I breastfed him and I also pumped. And so I think the text that she sent was, hey, I'm pumping, come on in.
Right.
I was like, oh my God. And I'm not saying that that's the exact moment that he walked in that she's referring to, because they're only referring to this one text. And she said it happened multiple times, I believe. But I will say, as someone, let's say I was breastfeeding and I was at work and I was talking to somebody I worked with, a man, I'm not going to say, maybe you would say I'm breastfeeding if you're comfortable, but I'm not going to say, come on in. Or not even
right.
breastfeeding or pumping. I think she was pumping, because you have both girls out. You're pumping on both. And yeah, it is a quick thing. It is 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want to do more than that on each breast, but you're showing a lot.
But there's the different ones, we don't know. There's the wearable ones that like you can literally put a shirt over.
Right.
Like what's the context behind this? So I would say I agree with you that like we don't know how many times this happened or whatever the case is. But if she's gonna open the door, is it unreasonable for some open the door to the situation? I mean, like
right.
not to her trailer, but just open the door to be like, it's cool for you to come in while I'm pumping, then what is a reasonable person to think at that point? Because, like, is he to, I don't know.
No, I think that's a human response. Like, oh, they already let me do it before, I'm going to do it again.
Right.
Like, and so I don't know. Like, I don't know how close they are. Based on that text, to me as a mom, as a woman, I would have to be 100% completely comfortable with this person to even say, I'm just pumping, come on in. Even if it is
Right.
silent, even if it is in your bra, even if you're wearing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's personal. You can feel them being suctioned, you know, like
Yeah.
it is personal. So if I would have been like, hey, wait 15 minutes. Now, I'm not going against her. I also don't like that they are bringing all this old footage because it isn't flattering, right? We love Miss Leighton Meester. And so you see things
Love
like,
her.
yeah. And so you see things that aren't flattering as far as like how Blake treated her or how she talked to her. But people, this was years ago. We are allowed to be better and different people than we were 5, 10 years ago, even a year ago.
That's
And so
true.
that's not
But
fair, I think.
even some of the press, and guys, we've gone back and forth on this, like whose side are we on here? And it's just for fun. Like, we don't have to be, team
Yeah, we
whoever,
don't we
but
don't know these
we
people.
we buy into it, right? So, like, yeah, some of these old interviews from like the Gossip Girl era, that's a long time ago. Like you said, she could be a totally different person. But then you even come into the press of this movie, It Ends With Us, and there was one specific question an interviewer asked her, like, this is really gonna probably bring up some feelings in a lot of women that want to come up to you and tell you about their situation with this unfortunate circumstance, with domestic violence. What can you tell them when they come up to you? Like, what can you make available to them? How can you be there for them? And she was just kind of like, oh, I can give them my phone number, I can location share, like, I can, we can be best friends. Like, it's a serious question, and that's a very rude answer for the scenario, right? For the situation. So stuff like that has come up even throughout this very recent process that makes you kind of question who she still is, because there's been old interviews where she's been questionable, and then now to this point. So I will say, in my opinion, she doesn't seem like the nicest person ever. Like, I'll say that much.
I mean, she definitely seems entitled, but who wouldn't be, right? I don't know if people in her position here know often.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that that's okay. I just think that it enters your psyche without much thought, and it just becomes who you are. And I feel like we do that just as Americans, right? Like, we're so entitled, like the smallest things compared to other countries. Like,
That's true.
so I take it as a great, I feel like they're all entitled, right? Like, people that make
Mm-hmm.
money, even watching Justin Baldoni, and I don't follow him heavily. I know you did. And but even like watching some of his stuff, I'm like, oh, that's narcissistic. Like,
Yeah.
based on experiences I had. That doesn't mean he's a narcissist. I'm just saying the way he promotes himself, or I don't know. I just feel that there's narcissism in both of them, and it really
Well,
is.
Hollywood's just, I mean, questionable, right? Like, to get to that
Period.
point,
Yeah.
I think it's probably pretty questionable, exactly, period.
Well,
Which is why we say we love Leighton Meester, right? Because she's a classy queen and she's been that way since the beginning. But if you also look at their two different upbringings, Blake Lively is a Nepo baby, and Leighton Meester was born while her mom was in jail,
oh my God, I
unfortunately.
just
So
saw
it's like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's very, and that's obviously going to bring up two very different people. And so, again, we don't know who's right or who's wrong in this Blake Justin scenario, but we've been diving into it because, and probably there's right and wrong on both sides. I think I told B, like, it's a classic scenario of um, her side, his side, and the truth, right? There's three sides to the story.
Well, and then I saw today, real quick. What is his name? He's a famous celebrity gossiper, Paris Hilton,
Paris Hilton,
because I
yeah.
guess he's been named in the suit or something, or in her complaint, or I don't even know what it was. But like, I was reading through the comments, and like, people are saying, um, like, she's not going to be canceled, she's going to be saved because she's with Ryan Reynolds. And that's what he said, like, she'll be fine as long as she's with Ryan Reynolds, but if he, if they divorce, then she's over. And I'm like,
I don't know if that's
I
doing
don't
much for
like
her right now, though.
the
If you
Ryan
go look
Reynolds.
at, yeah, I mean, if you go look at her Instagram and read the comments, they're all negative. No matter what
Well,
post you look at, she's she's getting, put through the ringer.
well,
So
and I think what's not helping is like this whole Ryan Reynolds thing too, is that they befriended, and I love him so much, but Hugh Jackman, and then you find out Hugh Jackman and his wife divorced after 27 years, and now he's dating Sutton, and people are just, saying, oh, there was an
Oh, I
affair,
haven't
and
followed that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a Broadway affair that had been going on. And again, we're not trying to raise more gossip, but I'm just saying that look doesn't look good for who Ryan and Blake are, right? Like, oh, they're recovering for their buddy, and
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know. I love Hugh Jackman, so I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that he had an affair. We don't know what happened.
Who knows? Yeah. Who
But
knows?
I have.
If you really do a deep dive on Hollywood, it gets pretty dark. I buy into those conspiracy theories, so I don't put it I don't put that past,
I mean, there's definitely a
them.
price to pay,
Yeah.
right? And then I've even, which I was surprised because my first, I'm a Swiftie, guys. Um, but I will say I was surprised. I'm like, oh, a lot of the Swifties are going to come save her. Like, she'll be fine. But a lot of
Mhm.
comments you see are like, I'm a Taylor Swift fan. That doesn't mean I support you. And so
Yeah.
they're all turning on her too. So I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't like to turn on women. I don't want to turn on anybody. I don't know
You can
any of
only
them.
be mean for so long. The one that really left a bad taste in my mouth, and we're just going on and on, but that interview that just left a bad taste in my mouth too, I don't know when it was from, but the interviewer just told her, like, congratulations on
Oh,
your
that was
little bump.
sad. Mm-hmm.
And Blake Lively was like, okay, congratulations on your bump. Like, why are you talking to me? They start making fun of the interviewer, like, talking down to her and the other person they were interviewing. And like, why?
That's
So just another just example of she's not nice, I
Well,
think.
and so my biggest thing, like in the beginning, I was like, well, how come the whole cast is against him? Right. That
Right.
was me.
Yep,
I was
that's
like,
true. Mm-hmm.
that shows a lot. Even Colleen Hoover's against him. But then
Mm-hmm.
you easily see how people are encouraged to be mean to other people, just like in that interview, because her friend or co-star seemed like she was going to start off nice, but then Blake Lively started. So then she just kept feeding into the Blake Lively.
True.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
this mean girl, I'm going to follow you, alpha middle school crap. Right. And so,
True. Yep.
yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. So we don't know, but and still questionable. I mean, I think there's a lot more to come on that situation, and they're going to keep going back and forth because her career, I think, is in a little bit of danger. I mean, obviously she's not,
They're
never going to
billionaires,
book
though.
anything again. Yeah, she's fine, but I do think as far as like the people that want to work with her, that is a little bit up in the air. And again, she's married to Ryan Reynolds. Like, she'll be fine, but she just feels that she has to do something. And Justin Baldoni, he's a star, but he's not as big as that. So I think obviously then he has to protect his reputation, and so I think there will be more to come.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more to come, and we are going to be. I was honestly like looking up because I don't know if you know, but I'm like, why did Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's trial go public? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
that going to happen to this, or like, what is a prerequisite that allows it to become public? Because I want in, I want footage.
That's what people are comparing it to. Yeah, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard
But what
trial.
caused that one to
Exactly.
go public? Like, why was that allowed to be on
Right?
local?
Who
Oh,
knows?
I
I have
couldn't.
no
I couldn't
idea.
find it. So if you guys know, let us know. We just wanted to bring up, like Steph said, all the bad things, all the bad taste in her mouth, including baby led winning, this gossip, and yeah. If you guys know anything that we missed or we don't know, fill us in. We are millennial
Yeah,
moms,
or give us your opinion on it. We're just interested. We've been kind of opposite the whole time, and then someone will bring up a good
and then
point,
we switch
then the other
sides.
person will bring up a good point, and then we're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
to think."
Yeah, I
But
will
anyway,
say
guys.
my first reaction is to stand by the woman, and that doesn't.
And my first reaction was to take Justin Baldoni's side.
Yeah, I was on no, we're good, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, but then
and
you
then
see
we've kind
both.
of flip
Yeah,
flopped.
yeah,
You see both sides, but yeah, anyway, guys, so if TikTok goes away, which is unfortunate because we have a decent amount of followers
that's like our
there
main little
and our
fan base.
videos get a decent amount of views, but if it goes away, please follow us on Instagram. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really at most places you listen to podcasts, YouTube, and we will try to just continue to create more content and try to ramp it up on Instagram. So follow us there, please.
Yes, and you guys let us know. We're still trying to find like our voice. We haven't done this for a full year yet. We're still trying to figure things out. But I think as of right now, we still want to stick to mommy content. We might throw in some celebrity gossip in the mix from time to time, because again, we are millennial moms.
We're human. There's
We
only so
love
much we
it.
can talk about.
You guys love
baby
it.
things. So.
We all love it. We love the gossip because
Exactly.
it's just good. It gets your creative juices going, even though it's not really doing anything for you other than that.
It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. We need fun. And so,
Yeah.
follow us, guys. Give us your comments since TikTok is going out. Anyone that's listening to us that is not in the US and you still have TikTok, give us the insight on all the TikTok stuff.
Yeah. But anywho, thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Living in the moment, it's the mom life.